And with great regret, I would like to inform you all that to our viewers that our teacher, Venerable Dr. Wetara Mahinda Thero would not be able to join us right now because of some major power breakdown in Sri Lanka, which has affected the internet connections in many parts of Sri Lanka. So we deeply apologize for that. Therefore, we have the IBC Secretary General, Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD, who is going to teach us today on the same topic, dealing with emotions. Venerable would be teaching us, and then in the end, we will have 20 minutes of Q&A, question and answers. And I would request viewers, those who have questions, kindly put your questions in the chat section with your names, and we'll take the questions in the end. So before I start, I would like to read a brief bio of Venerable. Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD is the Secretary General of the International Buddhist Confederation, IBC. The International Buddhist Confederation is a global umbrella Buddhist body headquartered in New Delhi, India, established under the patronage of the Supreme Buddhist Religious Hierarchy. It currently has a membership drawn from 39 countries of over 320 organizations, both monastic and lay. That includes world bodies, national and regional federations, orders, temple bodies, and monasteries, etc. So I'd like to welcome our teacher, Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD, to give the teaching. Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD.
I think Venerable Mahinda Thero is there now on the screen. Probably somehow he could connect. Is it Venerable?
Okay, so looks like.
Yeah, if he is there, let him talk.
Okay, Venerable.
Yeah, I could see him. Please. Venerable, can you unmute your?
Yes, I'm here. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now we are very, very happy that Venerable Wetara Mahinda Thero is here with us today. Actually, just half an hour back, we have been informed by our Deputy Secretary General of IBC from Sri Lanka that there had been major power breakdown.
Yes.
For that reason, all the communications, mobile, all those got affected.
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, right. But we are happy that Venerable Wetara Mahinda Thero is back. So I would request Venerable, okay, and then this whether this Nilja, do you have Venerable CV?
Actually, Ms. Sharmila ji was supposed to join from Sri Lanka.
Okay, then Dr. Dhamendra ji, kindly introduce our Venerable speaker of today, Dhamma Talk 2, please. I would request Dr. Mahinda ji to introduce our speaker. Dr. Dhamendra ji, can you hear me?
Yes, Venerable.
Yeah, please introduce our
Yes,
most venerable.
Today, we are happy to invite Venerable Dr. Wetara Mahinda Thero. In fact, as Dr. Dhamma Mahathero pointed out, we had some countrywide network breakdown, and therefore no electricity, and internet also was not working. But at the moment we can see the whole country is coming back to normal. I think due to our good karma.
Right.
Because we are organizing this a very important Dhamma talk. Now, right at the time, we got power back. So, and I was also in a kind of a problem, like how we should connect. Now, our Venerable there also connected. So let me introduce Venerable Mahinda Thero. So Venerable Mahinda Thero was a senior lecturer and the head of the Department of Archaeology in the University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka, some time back. And he was the chairperson of the organizing committee of Peradeniya University research sessions in 2003. And also he has authored many books, and he is at the same time, he is he was a visiting lecturer of archaeology in several key universities in Sri Lanka and abroad. And above all, he is a very good composer that I personally know. He has composed many songs, and also he, apart from his academic writing, he has recently he recently wrote a few books on health, like the value of the protection of your teeth and the value of protection of your eyes. So he presented these values. He presented his message in the form of a poem. It was a poetic creation which was appreciated by many people in Sri Lanka. And at the same time, during the pandemic time, when Corona started to rule the world, our Venerable Mahinda Thero wrote a nice verse, a collection of a few verses, and made a beautiful composition. And I was also part of that program. We did a song and a video also, and it gave a good message to everybody. So at this moment, IBC, on behalf of IBC, I would like to welcome Venerable Thero, and now he is ready to give his Dhamma talk.
Okay. May I now request Most Venerable Wetara Mahinda Thero kindly deliver your Dhamma talk for the benefits and welfare of all living beings. Please, Venerable.
Thank you very much. And I express my sincere thanks to the IBC, especially the Secretary General of it, Venerable Dr. Dharma Priya, and Deputy Secretary General Dr. Damendra Porge, and the organizing committee for inviting me to do this on behalf of the IBC. And I remember once coming to New Delhi 3 years previously, I think, to attend one of the conferences held by you. So I take this opportunity as a very valuable one, although I may not be expressing my views in a very dexterous way, in a clever way. I would today like to speak on emotions and the Buddhist attitude to them, and also the way one can get rid of them, or one can get rid of the inappropriate emotions, and then how to deal with appropriate and cultivate the appropriate and positive emotions, so that we can live a successful life in this life itself, a happy life and joyous life in particular. Now, as far as the emotions or whatever thoughts or our views are concerned, our our own views. We have our own views regarding the individuals, regarding the objects, or regarding even the even our own life. We have different waves we create from time to time. Perhaps we change some of these waves from time to time. In early childhood, we have different waves. In adolescent, we have, the waves may be different again. In the youth and in the old age, they may be different, as we all are aware. So these waves have a lot to do with emotions, as you are aware. We create some waves based on assumptions, certain assumptions, and as far as certain waves are concerned, we hold on to them. We hold on to them, and due to various reasons, and the way we respond to these the waves may have a lot to do with the emotions, in my opinion, in my understanding. So now these waves have again a lot to do with the inappropriate or harmful emotions like anger and jealousy or envy or aggression or sadness, maybe remorse or guilt, and so on and so forth. Now, in the teachings of the Buddha would want us to cultivate our mind, as we are aware again, as we know about it very well. We want to cultivate our mind so that we become joyous in this life itself, and we become free from suffering in this life itself, and also in the end to become to be in peace with the attainment of Nibbana. So in this life itself, as human beings, we are really fortunate to understand things differently, understanding things with intelligence, and also now we have the fortunate also to get the inspiration and also instructions of the Buddha, in addition to the inspiration we get from our elders and our Kalyana Mitras, or the best friends or noble friends. When we think of our life really, how many moments are there we get perturbed and disturbed because of these emotions like anger, for instance, and worry and remorse. And even we feel that the society or the some groups do injustice to us. So we really are worried over this type of things. That's the nature of the human life. Now, in this technologically advanced society in this world, even in this 21st century, now we see we have made so many creations. We have become triumphant in so many areas thanks to the advancement of the science and technology. But still, we are now, as a whole world, suffering, and also are in a way compelled to become fearful about what is going to happen to ourselves as well as our friends or relatives, or in our future is definitely we cannot foresee what our future is going to be, even in this scientifically advanced society now, technologically advanced world now. So it may create, as we know, most of the people who became the victims to this disease that is happening right now, that is they are in the world right now, became very worried, extremely worried about they are facing the situations inexplicably and unexpectedly. And you know, now over 50, I think 50,000, no, 500 lakhs or 50,000 lakhs of people, 5 million lakhs of people have become victims to this disease. Now, this is one instance in which we become the victims of not only the victims of the diseases, but also to the emotions in the middle of that process. Now, generally, we are perturbed by emotions, as I mentioned earlier, like envy and remorse and aggression, but here now worry over our own destiny and unexpected death at any time because of this pandemic right now. Now, like this, there are so many instances in which we become really perturbed by these emotions. I need not give a list of them, as you may already are aware of them. You can ask some questions later on. However, what can we do whenever we face an emotional situation? What can we do? In the Buddhist, against the background of Buddhism, we have been given numerous instructions to deal with them. And in addition, we know that there is something called emotional intelligence now, introduced by Daniel Goldman. But however, we are now trying to understand what the message of the Buddha given on dealing with the emotions. Negative emotions, as I mentioned earlier, we can relate to them not as disturbing things simply, but as teachers. In a way, they are teachers. It's easier said than done. It's definitely not easy to not easy to see them as teachers, but still, we know that these emotional states are unavoidable as human beings, as ordinary human beings. Now, Buddha said in one instance in the Anguttara Nikaya that there are two types of diseases we are suffering from as humans. One is the physical disease, and the other is the psychological, maybe the word used in Pali language is Chetasika Roga. Chetasika Roga. I'm wondering whether the term psychological can be used for that, but not Manasika Roga, but Chetasika Roga. That's the word he used in Anguttara Nikaya to imply the diseases, in particular the neurotic diseases of the individuals. So with the goes on to say that we can get rid of the physical diseases after a while, maybe after about several months or years or even maybe at several decades time, but still we are really suffering from the Chetasika rogas or psychological or rather neurotic diseases during our lifetime, unless of course we have eradicated the defilements fully. So this is one major teachings of the Buddha. Now we really understand that it is human to be faced with obstacles and difficulties and physical suffering as well as psychological suffering or mental suffering. But we should know that they may not be the same as they were at the time they were born. Maybe some problems when we are faced with some problems, we become very worried. This worry is only temporary, and even remote may also be temporary, but from time to time it can come up in our mind. So jealousy and other emotions are also temporary. But in other instances, we become, maybe sometimes we become joyous, we become happy, we are really, we are able to have a psychologically elevated times in our lives. However, what we should know is, essentially, that everything is subject to change. Everything, not only the objects, but also things in our mind are subject to change. So what we generally do is to hold on to these views that are coupled with these negative emotions. That is what we generally do in most of our time. So one thing we can do is to then understand that they're temporary and they are subject to change. Therefore, why should we hold on to that at the moment we are perturbed by that type of emotion? So that's one kind of things that we should really try to deal with these emotions. The other thing is that you should know that we become disabled for quite some time if we become overwhelmed by these negative emotions. We know that we are capable of doing so many things. We have so many capabilities and dexterities, and when we are perturbed and overwhelmed by these emotions like anger or jealousy or remorse, then we really become in a way disabled at that moment itself, because we cannot look at things in a proper perspective. We cannot look at things in the proper perspective. Instead, we see things in a very gloom and perhaps very inappropriate perspectives. Therefore, we should be able to see things properly, and then we should try to find out what, essentially we should try to find out what the nature of the emotions that we are having right now. The moment they come to our mind, if we are able to recognize it, that is a triumphant effort, triumphant activity. How many of us are able to understand the jealousy in our mind whenever we are overwhelmed by jealousy, for instance? And also, in particular instance, emotions like jealousy will not help you at all in whichever way. It does not help you at all. So even the anger or remorse, even the worry does not help us, but we are unable to get the most appropriate decision when we are really overwhelmed by these negative emotions, whichever they are. And now we really also should know another thing, that there are so many things that we should face in our life. Our life may be about at the most, maybe 100 years long, or maybe 80, or maybe even shorter. Human nature is such that we should live only a couple of, at least 10 decades, and not more than that. Now we know a tortoise lives about 400 years, but humans are unable to lengthen the life, although with the help of this scientific and technological advancement, whichever they are. And now, therefore, what we should be able to know is that we are temporary on this earth, and we have a lot of things to do, and we have a lot of opportunities to be happy and joyous rather than becoming disabled, as I mentioned earlier. Now, one other important aspect is that based on this understanding, we must know that anything can happen in our life at any moment. Therefore, the Buddha says, unexpected things are happening. Perhaps things that we expect very lovingly do not happen the way we want. Therefore, this is the reality, and therefore, face any situation that is created for us. Face with dignity, face with peace, and face with understanding, and face with the understanding to solve the problem if the problem is going to be dangerous. If the now, for instance, we can get in examples from a pilot who is flying an aircraft. Now, supposing he becomes angry, or he becomes worried, or he becomes perturbed for any situations while he's flying this plane, will he be able to do the proper thing? So, in whichever circumstance, the pilot is trained not to get perturbed, disturbed, and worried, but face the situation with peace and with calm and with a mind that is not disturbed. Equally, take us now in this life, life situations, take a surgeon. Now, when he is making an operation on a patient, he cannot think of so many other things, although he becomes worried or he becomes angry. So he should be very mindful about the activity he is engaged in, because it's a very intricate thing to do this operation, how many hours, I mean, it's irrespective of how many hours it's to be. So he should be very calm, and we should be very mindful about his activity. So these are the ordinary professionals training. Now Buddha says something more than that, because in ordinary situations, even a pilot and a doctor, a surgeon may become worried, may become sorrowful. But when they are in action, they are trained not to become worried or overwhelmed. But Buddha wants us to be very mindful, be peace of mind whenever we are facing any kind of problem, because the remorse and even jealousy and all these emotions will not help us at all. Therefore, we really we suffer because of this. These are added suffering. Added suffering. Supposing we are suffering due to physical illnesses, but even when we face this the problems of this physical illness, we cannot really, we need not be suffering mentally over that physical disease. It's always useful not to be suffering over the pain of the or the repercussions of the physical disease, because if you are healthy in your mind, then are not you even physically due to your ability to be in peace and mindful. Therefore, these are two things and several things that we can do in the face of an inappropriate emotion. Now, one other thing that we can do is to investigate. The moment a thought related to or which emotion, inappropriate or harmful emotion, occupies our mind, we can investigate whether we have been overwhelmed by such an emotion, and investigate. Develop an investigative mind. So therefore, investigation will help you tremendously to understand and also to get rid of harmful emotions. Now, Buddha says in one sutta in Pali, Bhayani Patisankhitabbani. Now, fear. We all fear due to fear the loss of relatives and loss of wealth and lot of even reputation and so many things. When we fear the loss of all these things, Buddha says in one instance, do not consider it a major problem when your relatives die. Do not consider it a major problem when your reputation is damaged. Even do not consider it a major thing when your possessions are destroyed. But it will be great And it will be it is essential for you to consider the need to be wise, rather prajna, that's the word used, prajna. Use wisdom of prajna to understand the nature of life and the nature of mind, and the way you can live the suffering physically as now there is a tendency
Venerable, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think you've muted yourself.
Right. I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we become fearful when we face so many things. But be investigative. The word he used is bhayani patisankitabban. Investigate whenever fear is there, rather than making the suffering worse while understanding the emotions of fear. Be investigative. This is what the Buddha recommend us to do. Investigate it. Now, the one of other important thing is to be able to see your mind when the destructive or harmful emotions are not there. Be happy when they are not there in your mind. So for that also you should be able to investigate your mind and be mindful about the moments that the harmful emotions are not in your mind. Otherwise, most of us become worried about these harmful emotions, even when we are able to be joyous. Therefore, these thoughts steal our ability to be joyous if we are not able to really understand that the positive emotions are there in our mind, or negative emotions are not there in our mind. So being calm and in any situation, and one other step you can take is to not to push away the emotions whenever we become perturbed by them. Now we are really accustomed to push them away, and that perhaps that really that causes the problem much more worse. Therefore, not to try to push the emotions away, but being mindful about them, as I mentioned earlier. And also in certain instances or in certain individuals, maybe there are good sides, whether we always are compelled to think of the bad side of an individual or an object or even our own life situations. We can also think of beautiful side of our life or even in other individuals. So try to find out if there are any sort of beauty in the individuals. So see the see, there are positive sides in the individuals we come across and the objects we are associated with, and even the situations, and even ourselves. Now, also what we need to understand is that in the very beginning I mentioned about it, impermanence of things. Now, when harmful situations are temporarily over, we become joyous and we get onto the view that the present or joyous period of ours going to be forever, going to be with us forever. But even the positive emotions are fragile. So we should be able to know that these positive emotions are also fragile. And now we have the habit of collecting so many things, collecting so many ideas, so many views in our mind. Now, in our own mind, we sometimes there are some occasions we become an enemy to ourselves. Now, there may be some friends who turn out to be enemies after a while. Perhaps the best friends become the worst enemy in some of our lives. However, the important thing is that not the people outside of us, but we ourselves become enemies of ours in certain instances. That is caused by perhaps the remorse and as I mentioned earlier. Therefore, how many times are there we can become friendly to others and friendly to ourselves, and how many times are there we can really accept our shortcomings as they being humanly possible, and then becoming better in as far as our livelihood is concerned, and our character is concerned, and our activities are concerned. So now again, several nice emotions, very pleasant emotions have been mentioned by the Buddha on many occasions. These are, as you know, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha in Pali. Compassion, loving friendliness, compassion, altruistic joy, and equanimity. So can we look at our own life with these positive emotions? Can we have an attitude with friendliness toward our own body and our own mind? How capable are we to accept our body in particular as it really is? There are many occasions on which we become the enemy of our body. So we want to change our body to the best possible degree. Maybe if sometimes, most of the time, it's futile, it's a futile effort. We are really going to be somebody else in our lives most of the time, if not most of the time, at least sometimes we try to become somebody else rather than accepting physically ourselves and also accepting ourselves psychologically. Now, this really creates, absolutely difficult problems. In a way, we become actors and we are players. We change our situations to suit the occasion. You see, in a way, we are really the actors. We try to become actors. The reality may be, we are far from reality and realistic nature of our life as far as physical condition is behavior is concerned in particular. So why can't we accept us, our body, as it really is? It's a tremendously harmful emotion that arises as a result of not accepting our body as it is. Now, therefore, kindness and compassion and altruistic joy and equanimity, all these should be exercised, or all this should be employed for ourselves as well as for others. Now, these are some of the most important points I would like to mention right now. I believe that there will be an opportunity for all of us to discuss things at length when some questions are perhaps raised. So I will try my best to answer them when you put questions to me. So I thank you once again for allowing me to do this for the IBC, International Buddhist Confederation, Collective Wisdom, United Voice. So now this, taking this as a very great instance for me, and I believe that I tried my best to express my views on this theme right now. So thank you once again, Venerable Dr. Dharma and Dr. Mahinda Thero, and also the organizing committee. And I'm really prepared to answer the questions to the best of my ability if they are really put to me now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable, for the precious teachings. Now we open the floor for questions. May I request the participants to kindly raise a voice, the virtual hand, sorry, and ask questions if any.
Excuse me, Venerable, and your teaching was wonderful. Thank you very much. Much merit to you. Now you said that Buddha asked us to investigate our own emotions whenever we get angry, jealousy, that we have to investigate. And also when we are away from those things. I mean, like when we don't have jealousy, when we don't have anger, so we have to investigate our own happiness as well. So can you please mention the sutta where it is mentioned, where it is recorded?
Right, thank you. Well, in particular, Satipatthana Sutta. In other instances also it is mentioned, but particularly in Satipatthana Sutta, there is a statement called Sati Chakwahang Bhikkhave Sabbatikang Vadami in Pali language. Sati Chakwahang Bhikkhave Sabbatikang Vadami. The mindfulness should be employed in all the situations. This is one very important instance the Buddha mentioned about this. Digha Nikaya Satipatthana Sutta.
Thank you very much, Venerable.
And you see, it goes on to say that whenever your mind, the thoughts related to anger occupies your mind, know that the thought related, anger related thought has occupied my mind. Equally, jealousy or desire or even any other emotion. Know that they have occupied my mind. So Buddha says in Pali language in that sutta in particular. Sadhu sangvachitang sadhu santi pajana, sadhu sanchittanti pajanati. Saragang vachitang saragang chittanti pajanati. The mind that has been occupied with desire, we know that it's a mind that has been occupied with desire. Okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question to our venerable teacher here? Any questions?
So can I ask a second question, Venerable?
Yes.
Right. So do arahants totally away from these emotions, or do they get the emotions and try to control them, or they don't get them at all?
That's a very difficult question because I have not experienced the mental states of an arahant. Therefore, I may not be one of the individuals who can really explain the nature of the mind of an arahant. But emotions are the results of the thought that arise. Emotions arise as a result of having thoughts, whether they have something to do with their likes and dislikes. Now, in my understanding, in my understanding, the arahants know that that is a desirable thing, but he does not get hold of it, one thing, and does not get it something as his possession. He does not want to be possessive of these things. Maybe not even the attitudes or views. He does not possess them. A possession, acquire a kind of acquisition or the possessing things. Now, it's very important that the Buddha says in one of the instances. Now, he understands the taste of the food. Will say, but he never. Now in Pali he says, "Rasa sanjanati bhagava." I know. I think that's the way it has been put in Pali. Rasa patisangvedi bhagava, but nocha rasa raga patisangvedi. Buddha knows the taste of a food, but he does not take it as something that should be taken as with desire. He no desire in his mind, but he understands the taste of the food. Equally, he is able to understand the beauty of things, but he does not get it as a desire and desirable thing, and also he does not want to suffer as a result of having possessive ideas related to that. So that's the nature of the Buddha mind, according to the statement.
Thank you very much. So what I understood is like arahants to get all these emotions, but they don't possess. Am I correct?
Sorry?
They too get these emotions and they understand, but they don't possess. They don't hold it.
kind of, I would say, I would not say emotions, but thoughts, they understand things, as they really are. But emotions, when you use the term emotions, it may be destructive sometimes if they are inappropriate emotions. So they may not get, I think, inappropriate emotions, but instead the emotions like loving friendliness and equanimity. Now they may be full of loving friendliness most of the time. So these are positive emotions. These are emotions that are helpful for them as well as others in the society, and not the harmful emotions, which are a kind of result, which are resulting from desire, anger, or other the root causes related to harm.
Thank you very much, Venerable.
Is there anyone else who has a question for our Venerable teacher? Okay. In that case, may I ask a question, Venerable?
Absolutely, yes, of course.
So, Venerable, when you said we should not be pushing away our disturbing thoughts, what do you exactly mean by it? How do we? Is it like we need people who are escapist? They don't want to face the negative thoughts. They try to indulge in something else so that those thoughts do not. So, is that what you mean, or how would you put it?
Very good question. I think the two questions asked by Madam Shamila also good. I think this is also a good question, really. Now, there are some people, or even we ourselves may try to get rid of some harmful thoughts, fear. I have heard some say, I want to have a mind without thoughts. So these are some of the waves related to this in particular. Now we want to really push away the worry or anger or other destructive emotions, thoughts. We want to push them away. The moment we try to push them away, they become more powerful and more really worse. And therefore, the most important thing we need to do is to be aware of it as they really are, as these thoughts really are, and instead do some other things, not to try to get rid of them forcefully, or even in our own thought, not to try to get rid of them. But the moment we try to get rid of something, we become problematic, and we really make it bigger. Now, there are many times when we are compelled to be with that thought if we try to push them away. Therefore, I think this is not a very good technique or tool for us to really try out. And instead, the first thing is to know, and then, if possible, to investigate them as in different points of view, in different ways. Try to investigate it. Perhaps we can we can divide into many aspects, the fear or worry or anger. Try to see what kind of things caused this anger, and try to, as in the case of an investigator or a researcher, you can do a research. You can do, in a laboratory, you do a research. So like that, you can do a very good research on that. But if you try to push it away, you are unable to do that research. One thing is that, and the other thing is that it definitely becomes worse the moment you try to push it away. Instead, all the time, whenever you get that thought, be mindful of it. Do other techniques, making use of other tools. Did you get my idea? Explanation?
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you. Okay, any other questions from the audience?
You can even write, type here if you are not able to speak out.
And I have a small question, Venerable. A question, it's kind of a clarification. So we are all trying to reach kind of an enlightenment towards, that is our goal. Our goal as Buddhists to achieve nirvana, attain. So we have been trying to come to this state of mind, struggling for a long time. So these, the levels, they are kind of dealing with emotions. And my personal feeling is, Venerable, so I need your advice. So when we achieve a state of Arahant, there is zero emotion. This is my personal understanding, but I have not read anywhere. I mean, because not I am not in a, maybe it's I don't know, but this is, you know, because like we have been like dealing with this Dhamma, and we are also like, it's a kind of mental process. So we are engaged in this process like every day. Personally, like I spare 2 hours in the morning every day for my kind of, you know, practice, chanting, meditation, you know, those kinds of things. So then we like develop understanding. At the same time, we engage in Dhamma talks and we discuss Dhamma with the Venerables like you. And during the past few days, I was with Venerable Dr. Wetara Thero. So we were also talking about certain components of Dhamma throughout. So, and also we were thinking of how we, IBC could help people to reach this state of attainment. And my feeling is Arahant, state of Arahant, is zero emotions, and they don't feel happiness or sadness or whatever. So you can give a clarification, and then it's a Sovan, Sakrudagami, Anagami. So we go like level by level. And personally, in my case, so I get angry, honestly, not always, sometimes. And then suddenly I cool down and I understand, oh, I got angry, this is not good. So I just like come back to normal. But certain emotions, so is jealousy an emotion? Jealousy and emotion.
Envy, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't have that. That's zero. So I have certain things I have like in my capacity, but certain things are there. So and so you please advise me. Advise the, I mean, the forum, the people in the forum also will be benefited. So I mean, is my understanding correct? Like when this Arahant, when Theravada teachings, the highest state of level is Arahant. So this level, zero emotions, or still we have emotions and we understand, and then we don't react. I mean, can you please give some explanation?
Well, I may not be able to, I think, I mean, deal with such a very, very subtle thing as in the case of an Arahant, but still this may be my own understanding. And I think I answered when Madam Sharmila asked that question earlier. I told her that the Arahants, as in the case of a Buddha, they understand the things as it is, and they do not have an, in particular, a negative emotion. But as far as the benefitful emotions like loving friendliness and equanimity, they may be full of this kind of emotions. To my understanding, I may not be wrong. I may not be correct, perhaps. So these harmful emotions are not there because they understand the reality of things, and still we cannot say that they are zero emotion. They are at the zero emotion level as far as the benefitful emotions like loving friendliness and inspiration and equanimity are concerned. This is my understanding. I think I will have to myself understand it. And the other question you put to me is that you do not have the thoughts of jealousy, jealousy or envy. I think it's a very great exploration and investigation. Still, I think I would ask you to be more mindful about your mind, about your nature of, about getting your nature of, getting your thoughts from time to time. Well, I have understood that the thoughts related to jealousy arise in my mind. Take for instance. But the moment I get it, I understand that I have a thought of jealousy, and then I can do something that is suitable. I do not want to chase after that. The thought of jealousy occupies in my mind sometimes. So it's a kind of growth. If you understand at least, I think, I do not know to what extent you can say that you are devoid of jealousy altogether. That's up to you and your own investigation. And you said you become sometimes angry over certain things. That's the nature of most of us as ordinary people. So when we become angry, know that you become angry, one thing. And unfortunately, perhaps we may not be able to at once recognize it in your own mind. Therefore, what we can do is to perhaps at the end of the day or early morning, definitely in the end of the day, we can try to find out and try to make a note of the thoughts that are associated with anger we have had during the day, throughout the day. So try to figure out them and make a note of them on a piece of paper or on computer, rather than having it our own mind. In the first instance, in the basic or primary period of ours, we may not be able to do this exercise in our own mind. Therefore, in our action or in our verb, in our verbal explanation, we can do something, we can play this really. Then if supposing we speak to somebody else about our own anger, then we are doing some verbal exercise so that we become not a victim of anger, and we become better in future. So that's a verbal exercise. And physically, we do write it on a paper or on computer, and then we do a kind of analysis of the anger or whichever harmful emotion it is. We do a note, not only a mental note, but also a note physically. We do. So then the following morning also we can again have a look at the note we have made, and again that evening again we can do the same exercise. So from after a period of after a considerable period of time, you become very you become much comfortable as far as the anger is concerned. You know that your mind has become free of angry thought, at least relatively. So this is one exercise you can do when we become angry. So what else did you ask? Are there any other questions you put to me?
You mean my questions, Venerable?
Yes, yeah.
I think you explained. So I think you explained. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, it is not somebody else that should work for us, and we ourselves are responsible, and we ourselves are the people who should do things related to our own thoughts as well as emotions that arise out of thoughts. So it's our own duty and not somebody else. But the way we really, the method we make use of and the tools we really employ to get rid of or to become better may be different. And these are two things I mentioned, the ways, I just mentioned two ways of dealing with them. Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so is that the last question, or do we have any other question since we have 10 minutes? Okay, in that case, then I'd like to now invite Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD, the Secretary General of IBC, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. Venerable.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa buddhang saranang gacchami dhammang saranang gacchami sanghang saranang gacchami Yampi Sam Sarana Gacchami Mam Sarana Gacchami Sangham Sarana Gacchami. Venerable Masters and members of Mahasangha, esteemed upasakas, upasikas, brothers, sisters, and friends in Dhamma. Actually, it has been our practice that before starting any program, either it is virtual or physical, we used to start with something called Mangalachara. That is something of Mangala Gatha, auspicious Gatha, or words of this. But today it so happened, due to the power breakdown in Sri Lanka, and we were trying to do some sort of disaster management. So I just came in half an hour back, just before the program started. I thought if Venerable was not able to come for the talk, then I would just replace and speak, at least not to embarrass the audience as we have promised. So before I propose vote of thanks, just to recapitulate some of the salient points that Venerable Wetara Mahinda Thero has spoken, and also maybe a few words of thoughts of mine to supplement more things. The topic is really very, very interesting, relevant for not only Buddhists, for everyone on this planet Earth. That's what I understand. Dealing with emotions. So what is emotion? We are already aware now. It is a strong feeling arisen or arose out of either our relation with somebody, or due to environmental conditions, or due to certain mood that we have generated, or due to our personal natural dispositions that we have accumulated in course of time in this life, maybe many reasons. But this emotion, as Venerable has said correctly, can be either positive or negative. But when we are talking about dealing with emotion, I think it refers to mainly the negative emotions. If it is positive emotion, I don't think we need to say dealing with emotion. All right. We'll be happy to, in fact, experience more of those positive emotions. As Venerable has said, the positive emotions like the metta, karuna, mudita, upekha, or the love or loving kindness, or joy, happiness, tranquility, a state of mind, a state of mind, but a pleasant state of mind. That is actually positive emotion. And what Venerable has said, the negative emotions like anger, hatred, animosity, ill will, greed, worry, fear, stress, sadness, despair, all these things are unpleasant set of emotions, which we can term as negative emotions. And we all know these emotions are universal. It doesn't have any specific identity. Like there is anger. Oh, this is Buddhist anger, or American anger, or Christian anger, or Asian anger, Sri Lankan anger, Indian anger. I don't think there is any such kind of leveling or identification. Anger is anger, and we all know this kind of negative emotion, either it's anger, grief, worry, jealousy, whatever we call that, despair, fear. These emotions, the negative emotions, are found to be almost all human beings. And we understand this emotion, or negative emotions mainly, are uprooted by the arahats, enlightened, awakened people. And our Mahaupasika raised the question very pertinently when we talk about emotion that we experience, and we are told and we read in our textbook, the arahat, the enlightened, awakened people, they have raised above all those kind of negativities. So if they have completely uprooted the negativities, the kilesas, whether do they have some sort of feeling of this kind? That was a really very important question. And Venerable tried to explain from his own understanding, not from his own experience. Definitely, to explain from experience is to achieve the state of arahatship, which we are not. Right? So we cannot actually explain from our experience, but what we have acquired and read, understood in the text, definitely we can say, though the arahat have both Chaitesika Sukha and Chaitesika Dukkha, or Kayika Sukha or Kayika Dukkha. That is physical pain or physical happiness or pleasure, or mental pain or mental pleasure. But in case of us, we get overwhelmed, carried away, we react, respond, judge. In case of Arahat, it is said they are not react. They are always mindful. They recognize, oh, this is what. Of course, I understand it is not the negative emotions, but the positive emotions. They feel, they recognize, and then that's all. In case of negative emotion, it is said they feel the kayika dukkha, the physical pain. That physical pain doesn't cause any harm, or doesn't cause to rise another chain of emotion, like hatred, dosa, the dosa we call hatred, or just animosity, or like that. That's what we understand in the text. And when we talk about this emotion, destructive emotion, this destructive emotions actually are the negative emotions, as Venerable has said. They may even cause the physical damage or damage physically. For example, somewhere I read, anger as negative emotion is a destructive emotion, as we all know. When somebody is too angry, it can definitely cause somebody very big damage, can go and hit and kill even, right? It is external. But the same anger even can cause the person who has developed or generated that anger. That is to say, anger can cause or weaken liver. Anger can cause weaken our liver. Even if we don't hit somebody or abuse somebody out of anger or rage, but at least it can cause our internal organ. It can make our liver weak. And grief can cause or weaken, make our lungs weak. And worry, so much worry and sadness, despair, that can cause our stomach weak. And stress, nowadays there's so much stressful life. This stress can cause our heart and brain weak, or to weaken, can become weak. So, and then fear, excessive fear or strong fear can cause our kidney damage or weaken our kidney. So these kind of negative emotions can cause definitely externally also damage and also internally to our organs. That's why very important point today we have chosen, how to deal with this negative emotions especially. And if it is positive emotions, I understand we have to multiply and support it to grow more and more. If it is love, we should have more love, a feeling of more love. Because when I feel kind of loving kindness and compassion, I get pleasant sensation, pleasant feeling, good feeling. It should be multiplied and shared with other people. I understand. So I feel, actually I'm not a speaker, just I was trying to recapitulate and just supplement some of my thoughts. This is very important that we, as Venerable has said from the Buddha's teaching, know the emotion at the first stage, know the emotion that is actually in the vulnerable. That is knowing the nature of the thing, the reality. If it is dukkha, know the dukkha as dukkha, right? So know the emotion. If it's anger, anger, grief, grief, fear, fear, worry, worry, stress, stress. This is actually first step called sati, mindfulness. So we have to be mindful. If we are mindful, we know at the start of the emotion. And when we know that this emotion or this particular emotion is not healthy, destructive, and if we are aware, then at least we can check. Madam Nilja was asking whether to suppress it or do what. I think Buddha never taught to suppress or gives free license to get expressed. Buddha taught us is whenever any kind of feeling, emotion arises within us, what is our duty is to observe and allow it just to rise without affecting anything. The nature of the thing is whatever arises, it goes up to a certain level, it peaks, then it gets clear. So when we observe, suppose I am angry, if I know that I'm angry, I'm mindful, then I just observe that, okay, I'm angry, there's anger, and observe. After some time, anger is gone, right? And to practice it, we all know there is something called antidotes. For darkness, the antidote will be light. When there is light, darkness will disappear automatically. So also, if there is anger, the antidote of anger is what? Metta, definitely, loving kindness. So we can generate consciously loving kindness at that moment to give antidotes to anger, so that anger get weakens and then it can be overpowered by its antidotes, metta or loving kindness. So I think there are many ways of dealing with negative emotion. How to deal with anger, how to deal with greed, how to deal with stress, how to deal with fear. Each emotion will have its own antidote. Of course, I am not a speaker, I will not speak. What I want to tell here is, as we do this, and we in IVC would like to offer a gift. The Dhamma Talk series we plan to have every fortnightly, after every 4 to 10 days, as a Dhamma Dana, gift of Dhamma to the world, not only Buddhists, because dukkha is dukkha, problem is problem. It is not only problem for the Buddhist or the dukkha for the Buddhist, the phenomena is for all. If the Buddhists and the IBC can provide some solution, some way out to the global masses, the humanity, to address the problems and difficulties and crises that we are facing at different levels, at the personal level, at the family level, a social level, a state level, national level, international level, then we'll be very much happy and we'll feel that Buddhism has contributed something, or we Buddhists have contributed something to sort out the global crisis or the problem of the world. This is how the Dhamma Talk series we have planned. And this state in Dhammapada, as many of our Theravada Buddhist monks, Buddhist followers know, Sabbadhanam Dhammadhanam Jinati, Sabbarasam Dhammarasam Jinati, Tanakhayo Sabbadukam Jinati. It's a Dhammadana. It says, among all gifts, the gift of Dhamma is the highest. So this is like the gift of Dhamma we want to offer, share with all. That is what our idea. At the end, I take this opportunity to appreciate highly, in spite of all the difficulties and crises and power breakdown, most Venerable Wetara Mahinda Thero could make it possible and delivered wonderful Dhamma talk today. I'm so much grateful and also thankful to Venerable to you for your contribution and sharing your Dhamma knowledge with all of us, with all the people who will be watching even after this program. I also take this opportunity to thank and appreciate, express my gratitude to all those who have joined live and listened to this Dhamma talk, and also those who have joined not in Zoom, but in different other platforms like Facebook and YouTube live, or who will be listening afterwards. I express my gratitude and thanks to everyone. Hope we collectively can do something good for the betterment of the world, for the happiness and good thing to come out in the world. Thank you so much, Venerable, and thank you everyone for your time and also joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venerable Dr. Dhamma Piyaji, for the word of thanks and your teaching also for encapsulating the teachings of our teacher today. Okay, so there is one question in the chat section from one of our participants from Korea, Dongguk University. Since I don't read Korean, I don't know the name, so you haven't. Yeah. So how can we understand our emotions in times of the Corona pandemic? So Venerable, I'm sorry, we are running short of time, but then you could just.
It's not very clear to me, but I don't know what he or she means by it. How can we understand our emotion in Corona period? Even in Corona period, the emotions of ours are the same, but the moments we are suffering from emotions related to worry and fear may be many in this period, in particular, as the world situation is concerned. However, yeah, I understand the one thing that we can make use of. I have given thought to it in the Corona period. Now, this is a very interesting exercise in a way. Now we get Corona as far as the health situation is concerned, either by touching our nose with the affected finger or hand. That is one way we get it. And supposing somebody else is in front of us is squeezing or coughing, then we are likely to get the Corona if the person is, the person in front of is, or the person who coughs is a patient of this COVID disease. Now what we can do is to be very mindful about whether we touch our nose. How many times do we touch our nose? Now I have understood some important researches done in Australia as well as United States about the times. How many times does somebody touch his nose or face, in particular nose, within a period of hours? At least about 19 times. Now they have made this research in Australia as well as America. They have found out about 19 times they touch the nose while talking, while giving a talk, or while discussing things as a group. So it should be great. I mean, whenever you talk to somebody in the presence of somebody in particular, or even when you are alone, not to be compelled by the thought to touch the nose without washing it with soap or for about 20 minutes, 20 moments, 20 seconds or so, without washing the hand with soap. You need not touch the nose in particular and the face during this Corona period, and that is, I think, a great advice I can give you. I'm not a medical person, but against the background of the Buddhist mindfulness teaching, we can be mindful. How many times do we inadvertently touch our face and nose? I believe that I did not touch my face at all during this whole period of time. So, so that is one thing that you can do as far as the mindfulness is concerned. When you employ the mindfulness for not getting corona. And I'm not very clear still about this question. I don't know whether I answered sufficiently.
Okay, our participant from Korea. I'm sorry, I cannot read the Korean script, so I don't know your name. I hope your question has been answered. Okay, since we are 10 minutes past 6:30, we'd like to close today's session. And as Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD said, IBC is organizing these teachings fortnightly. So we are going to come up with another Dhamma teaching, which is going to be the third Dhamma talk. And we'll be advertising on our website. So kindly stay in touch with us through our website and Facebook and Instagram. And we look forward to have you all. Thank you very much, all the participants, our venerable teachers, Venerable Dr. Dhamma PhD, Venerable Dr. Wetara Mahinda Thero ji, and Dr. Dhaminda ji as well for joining us. And thank you, participants. Have a good night.
Have a good night in the East Asia, in the Eastern Asia in particular. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.